Following 4 days of deliberations, the jury in the Paul Manafort case have decided to convict him on 8 counts of bank and tax fraud. However, there were 10 additional counts that they could not decide on, which led to a mistrial. Now, again, he has been convicted of 8 counts of bank and tax fraud. And so as a result, we are now going to await the sentencing in relation to these convictions. The federal jury in Virginia convicted Paul Manafort on these 8 counts Tuesday, but the mistrial was declared on the 10 other charges he faced. There was some expectation that this would happen because before news broke of the convictions, the jury had asked the judge what they should do if the jury can't decide on all of the counts or all of the charges.
So let's get to it, right? I mean,
ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Down goes Manafort. Down goes Manafort. Down goes Manafort.
Yeah.
So look, don't worry about the 10 that they couldn't, convict him on. The 8 are plenty. Those are very significant charges. Potential to serve the rest of his life in prison. Now, he will appeal, but even so, he'll be spending all that time in prison. Remember, they revoked his bail at one point. He's been in prison the whole time, and he got convicted, so he will stay in prison even through the appeals. Even if he were to win the appeals, he might spend years in prison, which then makes him think he's 69 years old, man. I mean, he's got nothing left to lose. So tick, 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 tick. Now, so the only card he's got left to play is Trump. Now, does he have anything on Trump? We don't know. Here's how we would find out. If Trump in a panic pardons him. Now remember that this trial was not about Trump.
Right.
Manafort took money from the Russian-linked Ukrainian leaders. He took $60 million and he hid half of it, and that's part of why he got convicted. Tax fraud, right? He didn't report $30 million of it, hid it offshore, etc. Right? Now, so that doesn't have necessarily anything to do with Trump. So why would Trump pardon him? But he's been making noise about like, oh, poor Paul Manafort, he's been treated so roughly and unfairly, right? Well, if he pardons him, that means he's got stuff on Trump, 100%, because there's no reason for Trump to get involved in that case unless he knows that Manafort's last card is evidence against Trump.
Right, it is fascinating that as it stands now, it appears that Manafort has not turned on Trump, right? And this case was a difficult procedure for him to go through. And the reason why I say that is because we learned a lot through this case. A lot of evidence, compelling evidence was provided by prosecutors, just to give you an idea of how incredibly dumb and incompetent this man is. Like, he broke all sorts of laws in order to accumulate $60 million, as Cenk mentioned earlier. So over the course of 10 years, he was working as a foreign agent, supporting Russian-backed leaders in Ukraine in order to help Russia annex Crimea. That's part of the thing, part of the issue there, right? So anyway, the $60 million is what I want to focus on. Over the course of 10 years, he hid half of that money to evade taxes, but he went broke. And what did he do after he went broke? He lied to banks in order to get loans. He was so desperate for cash, he lied. How do you blow $60 million in the course of just a short period of time?
That's the problem with a lot of these folks, which is that their greed is infinite. So he spent $15,000 on an ostrich jacket. And
vest.
Okay, to be fair, and the vest.
It had to match the vest.
Oh, well, of course, if you got an ostrich vest, what are you gonna do with it if you don't have an ostrich jacket? He wasted all that money, he broke all these laws. Now, was there something that the Ukrainians and the Russians were expecting in return? Now, the guy he supported is no longer the leader of Ukraine. They've gone in the other direction. Now they're more pro-Western, but the former leader was totally pro-Putin. So what do they expect in return? Well, Manafort, when he was campaign manager for Donald Trump, had control over the Republican Party platform to a large degree at the convention. So what did he do? He changed the platform to soften their stance on Russia as it relates to Ukraine. So he did not want to arm the Ukrainians against Russia. And gee, I wonder if the fact that they paid him $60 million had something to do with the fact that he was trying to influence policy. So you could say, hey, maybe Donald Trump didn't know about that Donald Trump is a fool, which is a good case to make, and that he hired Manafort even though he was clearly working for the Russians, or maybe not clearly enough for Donald Trump. And then he went around and did all these things. He was also at the Trump Tower meeting. He was basically, in a sense, still working for his former employers, the Russians. And so he affected policy on that. So the best case scenario for Donald Trump is, well, golly gee, Donald Trump is so stupid, he couldn't tell his campaign manager was working for a foreign government as he changed policy of the Republican Party to help that foreign government. Congratulations, Trump voters, if that's your best case scenario.
I mean, Trump voters, his base at least doesn't seem to care about any of this. But one other thing that I wanted to mention was that Manafort was the only non-Trump family member who attended that meeting with those, Russian lawyers. And that was the meeting where Russians claimed to have dirt on Hillary Clinton. Also, I want to kind of break down his charges a little more. So he was guilty of all 5 counts of tax fraud. He was also found guilty for failing to report on his foreign bank account, and then 2 counts of bank fraud. So the bank fraud was when he was trying to get approved for those loans, and he essentially lied to the banks to get those loans. But what I found interesting was that his lawyer said that he wanted to thank the judge for a fair trial. That was his quote following these convictions. And the judge's behavior throughout the course of the trial was fascinating because he was very tough on the prosecutors. Like, the prosecutors would bring up things that I would argue are important to the jurors to take into consideration. And the judge on various occasions would scold the prosecutors for bringing up these pieces of evidence. I don't know, I think maybe the judge wanted to make it abundantly clear that this was a fair trial, and so there wouldn't be an appeal or a retrial as a result. I have no idea, but I just found his behavior interesting.
Well, and the judge is right wing, appointed by Republican presidents, and that's okay, it doesn't matter. So he was so over the top fair that the defense even thanked him, and Manafort still got convicted of the most serious charges. So look, at a bare minimum, the conclusion of this is maybe it's possible, I'm not prejudging here, that Manafort doesn't have any evidence on Donald Trump, and he just did this crime unrelated to Trump, and Trump was too stupid to figure it out. Okay, then at least we got rid of Manafort. God bless. Guy's a clear criminal, convicted criminal. When you don't pay your taxes, you're stealing basically from all other taxpayers. I can't imagine why any conservative in their right mind would support a crook like this, unless you were actively and enthusiastically, backing someone despite the fact that they're a criminal. And you just don't care about the law, you don't care about law enforcement, you don't care about right or wrong, and you just want to back someone because they're on your team. Now, conservatives, I'm sure you wouldn't want to do that, so I'm sure you're celebrating what happened today, which is a win for all Americans.
Want to see more videos like this? Well, you can. All you have to do is subscribe to the TYT channel below. And don't forget to become a TYT member and download the TYT Plus app on your phone. Head over to tyt.com/join today.